what's going on? How's everybody doing? Hey. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey. Hey, everybody. How are you? We are going to talk about family today. Hey, Brandon. Yes. Hey, Rand. How are you? We are going to talk about family and acceptance and not let the motherfuckers run your nerves, stuff like that. I've been seeing posts about people dealing with things with their family, and I wanted to kind of share some of my experiences, but really kind of see what's going on in your lives in regards to your family, and see what will work out. Hey, Yui, how are you? Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. We're gonna give people a chance to come on in about 10 minutes. To give y'all a chance to go get something to eat. Ah. Mm. So what has been going on with y'all this week? Anything new and exciting? Hey, Farah, how are you? My lives are, I try to make them every Friday at Central Standard Time, between 7 and 8. So, yeah. Hey, Melissa, how are you? It's not exactly 7, but I try to start no later than 8. Hey, Nicholas, how are you? Make sure as you come in, you thumbs up. We're going to get started in about 6 minutes. Michigan extended the stay-at-home order, so I'm pretty much just working from home for now. Yeah, good. Smart. These people talking about reopening, I'm like, ooh, I don't know. Not me. I'm gonna stay my ass in the house. I'm not even gonna play with them. Nope. I got this on my cruise to Mexico. Isn't it cute? Just so it had liquor in it. Mhm. You know what's funny? I was watching Reading Rainbow, just going down A childhood memory lane. I did not know Shaka Khan sung. Now I can hear it now that I heard it. I didn't know Shaka Khan sung the theme song when I was younger. I didn't know that. Now that I'm older, of course, I'm like, duh, that's her voice, duh. But I didn't know she sung Butterfly in the Sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look. It's in her book. It's reading Rainbow. I can go anywhere. It's friends to know. It's ways to grow. It's reading Rainbow. It's reading Rainbow. I didn't know Shaka Khan sung that. That was my jam. That's one of my favorite theme songs in my childhood. That and that and what's the Growing Pains one? What's the Growing Pains? That's the name of the show, I think. Um, what? How does it go? I don't. Y'all know the Growing Pains theme song. I can't think of the words right now, but I love the Growing Pains theme song. Of course, all the black shows, but I'm talking about. Um, she has songs on her profile. Oh yeah, I have. If you go on SoundCloud and search for Diamond Styles Music, I put all my recordings there. Hey, yeah, I had looked it up and they said it was Shaka Khan. I was like, oh, but then I can hear it. But then Vesta be sounding like Shaka Khan sometimes. So, maybe. But no, no, no. I looked it up. They said it was Shaka. It's like, oh, okay. Yes. I have some music on YouTube too. But mostly on SoundCloud. Anything new? Um, I haven't had. I'm working on some new stuff, but I haven't. Um, um, let me see. Let me see if I can let y'all hear this. Do y'all know the song? Well, y'all have to know the song. I know this is y'all gotta know the song if you're black. Can you send the rain? On a perfect day, yeah, I know that I can count on you. If that's not possible, yeah, tell me, can you weather the storm? Oh, when I somebody who will stand by me. Y'all know that song. I'm recording that. So no, let's new edition. Mint condition is mint condition is you send me swinging, oh you send me swinging. That's mint condition. What else? I don't know what I'm trying to think of what else that I have. Did I have oh, oh, let me let y'all listen to this. This is cool. I like this ending. I haven't worked out the kinks yet, but Not that. This is a medley of Summertime songs. Y'all know this is sad. Friday. Stronger. Never miss the water till the well is dry. That's that. It's a whole medley of songs. Yeah, Mint Condition. I love Stokely. Stokely is a fire ass artist. I love him. I don't really have it. Stories just come like they have to come. Like they have to they have to come with the conversation. Uh, they have to just come like if it depends on the conversation. I don't mind busting out a story if it's relevant. Let's see. Let's start in about 2 minutes. K Michelle, The Rain. Yeah, I haven't heard. I'm not a fan of K Michelle's. I ain't really a fan of her, so I haven't really heard her album. Did she redo that song, Can You Stand the Rain? Um, I love I love Meg and Beyonce. I love that remix. I love it, love it. I'll be listening to Ashy Time all the time. But isn't that song funny? My favorite song, recent song that I wrote is Squirrel. I wrote it for National Peanut Day. But I put that on my Soundcloud too. Beyonce told y'all, she said, um, I must, or what was the word? She said, I must be the shit if I'm causing all this conversation or something. I can't remember her words on that song. But he's King Ashy. He's King Ashy. So, child, that's what it is. Squirrel is about, when you just trying to get a nut and you ain't trying to deal with all that extra shit, and you telling a nigga like, yo, you ain't gotta do all that extra shit. I'm just trying to get a nut. So if I choose you to be the one, calm down. Let's just enjoy getting a nut together. And so I call this Squirrel. I'm the bitch when I'm that bitch when I cause all that conversation. Yes. She told y'all she can't do nothing without the haters coming through. But she has more people that love her than hate her. So I'm sure it doesn't matter. All right. So y'all gotta participate in this because I want to know where y'all at with y'all family, like in y'all particular situations. I was talking to my friend online. I am a gamer. I play Xbox and I play the game I really only play. I got other games on there, but I don't really play them. Um, I am a avid Elder Scrolls Online player, and I have a friend that I play with all the time. I have a PS4 too, but I rarely play my PS4. The last time I played my PS4 is when Destiny 2 came out, and I was so disappointed in it that I really didn't play it. And my PS4 is in my bedroom, and usually I don't do shit in my bedroom but go to sleep. So when I'm in my bedroom, I don't really be playing no games. And I haven't switched my PS4 to my living room. So I haven't really played it in a long time. um, but I'm an avid Elder Scrolls player, and when we get on there and we're playing a game, we will just get to talking because put your headphones on and and talk to the people that you play with. And we had a long conversation about last night about our relationships with our family and how they are different between our siblings. And I just thought it was an interesting conversation, especially particularly my particular case being a trans person and navigating family dynamics being a trans person. So, and we my friend who I play the game with, he's closer to his father. He considers himself a father, a daddy's boy or whatever, like a father's boy. Very masculine, heterosexual man, and he was like, my father was like my superhero, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I definitely consider myself a mama's child, and but I wouldn't say in the beginning of my life, my mother was like a god, like she was the one. But because of life and addiction and all that kind of stuff, she kind of rocked that kind of thing. She's definitely human now. But but my mother is just, even to this day, I love my mother to death. But me and my brothers have very different relationships with my mothers due to colorism is one of the factors. My age, I'm the oldest, and I have a different history with my mother than my brothers. Um, each one of our fathers, because my mother has a baby by three different guys, but she stayed with the guy for a long time. Like my middle brother, she stayed with his dad for like 7 years before she got pregnant. Um, my dad was her teenage fling, and then her love was my youngest brother's father. She stayed with him for 4 or 5 years. Um, so we're not like stair step. We're far apart. I'm six. I'm 6 years older than my middle brother and 9 years older than my youngest brother. So my mom, for the beginning of my life, my mom, she was just for me, a perfect mom. Like my mom was very affectionate. She was very, very attentive to me. She was very, like she would do stuff like she would wake me up on like a Friday every week, like once a week on a Friday when I didn't have school in the morning. And she would wake me up at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And we would go to this restaurant called Steak and Ales. It doesn't exist anymore, but like we would order some food and we would sit down and she would recap my whole week. Very, very attentive and just ask me what was going on. Now, mind you, I'm her first child, so She was very diligent about parenting. I think not all the time, but I think a lot of people, when it's their first child, it's like, oh, I want to do this right. I want to do this. I want to do this. And they have this like plan of how they're going to create the perfect little human. And they're really invested in, being a great parent. And I think that that's where my mom was when she was younger. And so, like, she would take me to the little restaurant at 1 o'clock in the morning, and we would talk, and she would ask me what was going on in school, and we would recap everything that happened that week. I can just vent to her whatever problems I was having in school, whatever problems I was having with my friends, and this is little kid problems. And she would be attentive and listening as if they never like as if these are like we gossiping like old girlfriends. So she just had it just was a just something about my mom. She just was. I never felt in my younger years that I was lacking of anything, even though my mom was in low income housing. She would be considered poor. She would um, we welfare. She just did, she was a poor teen mom. And so she didn't have any help from my grandmother, because my grandmother was because she was a teenage mom, my family, they, in their response to my mom, she's she's they were almost like punishing her for getting pregnant. So we're not gonna help you finish school. We're not going, because she didn't finish school. We're not gonna help you. Um, if you need a break, we're not gonna help you babysit the baby. It was almost like a punishment. Like, this is your child. This is what you, when you get pregnant. This is what you got to do. So, honey, take care of your kids. And my mom did. Like, she got her own place, and you know did her thing in regards to that. But one of the ways for her to get off and under my grandmother's roof and get some kind of help was to get into a relationship with a guy who actually was abusive, real for real. But it was her only way to get stable and in her own place, and on her feet with her new baby. And so my grandmother kind of pushed her into this abusive relationship with this guy, because they wouldn't give her support, because they were trying to punish her for getting pregnant at 17. So she was really, really just, I didn't feel, as a young child, because I didn't know the ways of the world and how things work, I didn't feel like I was neglected at all. So up until the point of my mother starting her addiction, I didn't feel neglected. I just felt loved. I felt affection. I felt everything that you want in parents. Um, and that's one of the reasons why I never got close to any of the guys in my mom, except for one. The guys in my mom's life, because my mother was so everything that I needed. I didn't feel like I needed. I didn't feel lacking. So that's how I explain that. But my younger brothers, on the other hand, they have a very different relationship than my mom with my mom, because my mom is the darkest of her. She doesn't have any siblings. She's the only child, but she has 5 other cousins that she was raised with. So she was raised with them like they were her brothers and sisters. And she is the darkest of them. And she was raised in an abusive home with her grandmother, who was color struck, what the country folks call it, where my great grandmother treated light skinned children better than dark skinned children. That was just the reality. There was a lot of colorism. She was from the rural area of Mississippi. So this is how, and like I said, this is my great grandmother. So she's old and very old school and from Mississippi. So that colorism thing is a part of the culture down there. And so she treated my mother and her brother, Billy, They were the darkest. And so she treated them very different in regards to abuse, in regards to um, just talking down on them and treating them bad. So that was ingrained in my mother as well. So when I was born, um, I was born with long hair. I was born with blue eyes. I was born high yellow. So my mother, having a baby that looked like me, being a young girl who had never been a virgin because she was molested all of her life. And so her self esteem was in the gutter. Um, and this is what she explained. She was like, when you were born, I didn't know or believe that you were my baby. I thought I couldn't have a baby this pretty. And if I did have a baby this pretty, it was affirmation that maybe I'm pretty too, because I thought you looked like me. And my grandmother, not her grandmother, my grandmother was like, "Bitch, I saw it come out of your pussy. This your baby." But questions I have: did you have sex with a white man? Because it's looking like a mixed baby. And so she was supposed to abort me, but my grandmother, being the moral compass at the time, she was like, "We don't get abortions. It's not," which is also strange because later on, she was like punishing her for getting pregnant, but then she was saying, "We don't get abortions and we don't put our kids up for adoption." It was strange, but she convinced my mother to see me. She convinced my mother to actually see me, like actually see, because my mother didn't want to see me. She wanted to just sign me over to the adoption people without actually seeing me. And my grandmother was like, hold on. She went into the nurse's office. Well, not the nurse's office, the nursery with all the babies. And she picked me up and brought me to my mother. And my mother was like, "Why are you bringing me the baby when I told you I didn't want to see the baby? I didn't, I want to put the baby up for adoption. I'm too young and blah, 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 blah." And so my mom says, she said when she saw me, that was a wrap. She was like, that adoption shit just wasn't an option. You're my baby. You was beautiful. I'm keeping you. So that set the tone of our relationship. My mother spoiled the fuck out of me. Um, So I had a different relationship with my mother. When my little brothers came, they, I'm the lightest one. I have a younger brother right after me who is not as light as me, but a lot of people, he's like caramel. Some people would consider him light skinned, some people would consider him brown. Um, and then I have a brother after him, my youngest brother, Rakim. Y'all seen him on the channel. He's, he's just brown too, but he's the darkest of us. And he was, my mother's treatment of us was very subtle. It wasn't, it wasn't like shady or anything like that. But my grandmother's treatment of us was very different. My youngest brother, when he was born, my grandmother would call him monkeys and say little weird shit. And we would have to combat her and talk. And me and my mother would be like, "Don't call him that." And like, it just, we would have to, that was a constant thing that me and my mother would notice. My mother's treatment of me, like my younger brothers, they call me the golden child because my mother treats me not better, but just different. It's not, because they play that card, she actually does way more for them. Like she does, like, because I'm an independent person, she does more shit for them than she does for me. But how she treats me in our interaction is different. Does that make sense? Like she doesn't give me more things. She gives them more things because I don't need stuff. But when we're around, she's more, she treats me like her daughter, but they call me the golden child. The dude that my mother was with, that is the father of the middle child, he was abusive. My mother was trying to get out of the relationship with him. Remember, I said she only was in that relationship with him because she was trying to get settled on her own. Um, so in the situation, she didn't want to have any babies by him because she knew this nigga has been beating my ass. He's been like, I remember I walked in on him beating her up and he had a plastic bag over her face while he's punching her. And we had to call the police. Hey, Kay, how are you? Um, um, and he just was abusive and she didn't want to have a baby by him. But she finally got a way to get off and under him and was ready to move on. And boom, she gets pregnant. This is 7 years after they together. And she was like, I didn't believe in abortion. She was like, I finally got the courage to leave this motherfucker. And then, damn, I got pregnant by this motherfucker. And so she had the baby, stayed with him a little bit longer. But she was just annoyed that I'm going to have to deal with this dude for the rest of my baby's life. Like this abusive dude. And so the relationship with my middle brother and my mom is kind of strained because of the father. The youngest brother, his father is young. Okay, so the other dude was 10 years older than her. So when she was 7, he got with her when she was 17 on his R. Kelly shit. He got with her when he was 17. They stayed together for 7 years, but he was 10 years older than her. He was 27 at the time that she was 17. And the youngest brother's father was younger than her. So instead of her going to another older dude, she went to a younger dude. And that was my youngest brother's father. And he was a whole different type of dude. He was like loving and funny and fun and not abusive. Not abusive. He just was the total opposite of the other guy. But his father is the one who introduced my mother to drugs. So that's a dynamic that's like, ooh, we love him, but he's the drug addict that introduced her to drugs, that started her down this addict path. So it's kind of all this kind of hard to deal with stuff in regards to our relationship. And there's a level, I don't want to say it's a level of guilt, because my little brother knows it's not his fault, but his father being the catalyst of my mother getting into drugs is kind of like an unspoken, like, not his fault, but your daddy's fault. But we also loved him because he was like, my mom was married to Martin, like Martin Lawrence. His personality reminds you of Martin. Like you know how silly Martin is. He always cracking jokes, always roasting, always making you laugh. That was him. And he loved my mother's kids. He loved us. Like he would go to the store and steal video games for us. He just was a good dude. He just was, in regards to how he treated us and how he treated her like he wasn't physically abusive. He really loved my mom and my mom loved him. And we lived together in Boston, Massachusetts. And that's what it was. But that's when the drugs started. So when the drugs started and my mother really hit rock bottom, she decided to do what was best for her. She was about to go to prison. And she gave only father in our lives at the time who was about shit was my middle brother, the one who was beating the shit out of my mom. And so he was the only one that was about taking care of his kids. And so my mom gave my middle brother to him. And she felt like it was the best thing that she could do because, I'm on drugs. I'm not doing right. Hey, Deshaun. I'm on drugs. I'm not doing right. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. So my mother gave me and my youngest brother to my grandmother. And then she gave the middle child to his father while she goes to jail. And she's like this. I'm just put my kids where I need them to be while I'm on this fuck shit. I can't get out of this addiction right now. So this is the best. I know they're going to be safe. Because I was trans at the time, my grandmother was like, fuck that to me because she's transphobic and homophobic and put me out. Because this faggot, gay, tranny shit, hell no, you're not doing that in my house. And I was like, this is who I am. This is who I'm going to be. You don't like it? Fuck it. She was like, get the fuck out. I left. And so I ended up going into a group home. So y'all know that story in regards to some stories from that era of my life. So I went into a group home. My youngest brother stayed with my grandmother, and my middle brother went with his father. So all of us have very, very different relationships with my mother. I'm the person who stepped up and started taking care of my youngest brother because my grandmother ended up getting on drugs. Bitch, how you get on drugs at 50 something? Bitch, get the fuck out of here. You stupid. My nose is itches, I'm sorry. She got on drugs, and so I had to take custody of my brother. Y'all know that story too. And then remember, the abusive man took my middle brother. So my middle brother would call me because if you're abusive to the women, you're gonna be abusive to the kids. So he was abusive to his son too. And so he would call me, and I was kind of a part of a support system for him. And I just became a little more motherly to them. And so even now, there's kind of like a weird, I don't want to say jealousy, but there's a weird way in the way my brothers treat me that's different than my mother, that my mother feels some kind of way about. So when my transition happened, when my transition happened, my mother, she never really treated me in a negative way, but it wasn't something that she cut for secretly inside of her. But my mother's, because she had tensions with her mother, she wanted to be a great mother. So her need to want to be a good mother was stronger than her need to be a homophobe, even though that's what she was. I hope that y'all understand that. Like, she's a homophobe, but she wants to be a good mother more than anything. And so her feelings about homophobia, she kept to herself and didn't tell me at all. She didn't tell me any of that. She didn't, like, my mother from the beginning of the time that I transitioned, she was in my corner. Like, I never had any issues in regards to, in the early stages, my mother seemed like she just was accepting, but she really wasn't. She really wasn't accepting, and she would talk shit behind my back and talk all kinds of cat shit behind my back. But I wouldn't know it. I wouldn't know it, and I kind of respect that because she was protecting me, like in a sense. Like, she was, if anybody else said something, she would be like, nah, that's my child. Y'all got me fucked up. If y'all got a problem with her, you got a problem with me. Fuck you. But to our close family, she would be like, oh, I hate this shit. I don't fuck with that. I don't want that. And so it wasn't until like years later, I want to say in my early 20s, that I'm like 21, like 2021, that I first heard or had learned that my mother had an issue with it. And so we had that became a problem because I'm like, what? Of all people, you got a problem? And so it was a little tense, but also because I was the person stepping up, taking care of her children. It just you can't really say nothing to me. Like you literally are neglecting your children to go chase drugs, and I'm taking care of them. So regardless of how you want to judge my transition, regardless of how you want to, how you feel about me being trans, me being trans don't affect nobody's life but mine in regards to negative impact. You out here fucking doing drugs, running the streets and not taking care of your kids. I'm taking care of them. So how the fuck you gonna judge me? The fuck? And so that was the dynamic. And they would try, my grandmother, they would try to judge, but I got a sharp ass tongue. And I would say shit. Like I wouldn't, you feel what I'm saying? Okay, he's being weird. So my youngest brother, because he because he went to his father, the abusive father, and they lived in a suburb of the city that we lived in. We lived in Indianapolis. There's a suburb a little north of Indianapolis called Anderson, and they lived in Anderson. He thought that me and my little brother was still with my mom, and she just abandoned him and gave him to his father. So he has a tension with her, like abandonment issues. Like, you gave me up to this man who was abusive. Now, although this is not to gaslight him, he was abusive to him. But although he was abusive, his father took care of the household. And so he lived in a nice house, a nice neighborhood. And, his abuse was more about him doing shit in school. He just took shit too far. So he just was a strict father. But all of his needs were taken care of. If he was with my mom, we would have been totally separated. His father had stability. He had been on his job for years, so he had stability, even though he was in a situation where, his father was, violent, strict, and took his discipline too far. That's what that gives you a little bit more context. Youngest brother, going with my grandmother, he almost lived like an only child when he was with my grandmother because he was the only child in the household. My grandmother, early in his life, was a drunk. And so she would be drinking, and my grandmother is the only person in my particular family who was more vocally against my transition. Everybody else, either they didn't care or they didn't tell me that they weren't cool. But my grandmother was like, "Oh no, I ain't with that shit. I'm not calling you by no diamond. I'm not calling you by no she, her. I'm not giving you none of that. When you come in my house, I'm gonna call you him, he, and I'm gonna call you your old name because that's what your mama named you." And it wasn't until I kind of trained her in a negative way in dealing with that kind of stuff, with her. But with my little brother, my little brother, it's not colorism. I mean, with my grandmother doesn't have a colorism thing. My grandmother has a gender thing. My grandmother. In the same way that my mother's grandmother had a colorism thing, my grandmother, my mother's mother, had a gender thing. She liked boy children. She didn't like girl children. That's why she neglected. Um, that's why she. That's why my mother. She neglected my mother. I don't know what's going on with my nose. My nose is itching. Um, she neglected my mother because she's a girl child. But boy children, my grandmother treated them like really special. So my little brother, she treats him like a fucking king. She's so nice and sweet to my little brother. Everybody else, she is mean and shady and a bitch. Everybody else, but she just treats boy children different and girl children a different way. And so she so my little brother has a different relationship, even like with my grandmother. Like my grandmother, she'll be crying. Like she can pull, like my little brother can pull the heartstrings of my grandmother. Me, my grandmother ain't got no heartstrings, baby. She is a bitch. She don't give a fuck. But my little brother, it's just something about my little brother that she's, it's just something about him. And he just, and we've talked, me and him talked about it. He has his recollection of her is a sweet grandmother, a tender grandmother, which is total opposite recollection of mine because she was the most vocally against my transition. She was the one. She was the one who was the hater. Nobody else. It was her. And so we just have different relationships with everybody in our family. So now that we're older, my mother, me and my mother are like sisters. We're more like sisters than we are like um, child and parent. Um, yeah, we're closer to that. My little brother is more like he barely talks to my mom sometimes, but he barely talks to her. And in the middle child, because he has abandonment issues with my mom, they talk the most, and they live in the same city. They still live in Indianapolis. They talk the most, but he's the most harsh on her. Like me and my other little brother, we're like my younger little brother. We're like, girl, we'll talk to her, but we in our own life. I live all the way in Texas. He live all the way in Florida. We'll talk to her on the phone and then go on about our business. But my middle brother, he is vicious to her. He's shady to her. He, I'm not gonna let you see your grandkids if you don't start getting your life right. Like we are no longer in me and my youngest little brother. We are no longer invested in her getting her life right because we have our own lives. If you want to still be on drugs, if you still want to do drugs, go ahead, girl. We don't care no more. Who cares? We're adults. Do your thing. My middle brother, he's like, oh my God, I can't believe you're still doing drugs. He's still emotionally invested. But we had much more time than him to I guess directly work through it with her because we still were kind of in her life. She wasn't taking care of us, but we still was in her life. As opposed to him who was with his dad, he hadn't worked shit out with her. He hadn't been able to go off. He hadn't went through the stages of healing, the anger, the forgiveness, and so on and so on and so on. We already been through that. So nigga, you doing that now. You're doing that now in your 30s when we did that in our 20s. Well, I did that in my 20s. And so, yeah, we just have a very, very different relationship. And I thought it was interesting that he had the guy that I played the game with that sparked this conversation, that he had the same way. He didn't have the same relationship with his father as his brothers did with his father. So I wanted to ask y'all, do y'all see different difference in y'all relationships with y'all parents in your lives or your sibling lives. And if you don't have any siblings, you probably wouldn't answer that question. And how are you navigating? If you don't have any siblings, how are you navigating your relationship with your family? Are there issues that are still coming up? Are there issues that are, especially in regards to if you are just gay, like if you're a gay man or a gay woman, um, how is your family dealing with that in regards to accepting you, or is it how are y'all navigating still being close? If you're trans, how are y'all navigating that space, pronouns, names, and stuff like that? How are y'all dealing with those particular issues in your life now? Do you have a different relationship than your siblings? Did your transition change, or your sexual orientation change the dynamic drastically in your family life? Like, did y'all have a break? Y'all came back together? Like, how did y'all navigate the spaces of that adjustment once you, quote unquote, came out of the closet or started walking in your truth? How did y'all navigate that with your family? Have you ever thought about writing an autobiography of your life? Yes, I'm working on it. Me and my mother wasn't close. She had a drug problem for years. I just moved on and paid it. I had abandonment issues, but just got over it. What did you do to get over it, Adrena? Uncles ran for their lives. They had no word for me or respect. That's just the way it goes. Your uncles, but your parents stayed in your life. I see a difference more so amongst my grandmother and my cousins. She's constructing. It seems the more ain't shit you are, the more positive support and attention you get from her. So she supports the ain't shit people because they probably ain't. They probably is feeling living up to like patriarchal standards and all that kind of stuff. So they like, ooh, that's still respectable, even though you trash, you still acting like the alpha man. And so, ooh, I can respect that. Navigate child. I was always a renegade in my family, so I think they just got comfortable with being uncomfortable. They just accept Sam. You talk about they just accept it. So fuck it. I'm the eldest and only child between my parents. Both of them said I will always have a more elevated position value among my half siblings. Oh, interesting. Just because you is that a I don't know the language for that. Just because you have both parents instead of the half ones, parents are going we're going in the wind. We have similar setups in terms of parents. Okay. With me and my mother, I used to not like it when she kept relapsing and asking me for help, dead naming sometimes. Now, after much education, I'm more understanding of her. She battled demons I've never had to. I think that's what you mean. Yeah, I think that's a process too with my mother being a drug. I don't want to say I think my stability led to that. Um, I think my stability led to um, your drug abuse does not affect me. Like even recently, like within the past, I think early February. Yeah, early February. That's how recently. She called me, and I guess she had relapsed or whatever. And my middle brother found out that she relapsed because she's working. She's she has a job and she has her own place and she's doing her thing. And so apparently she had done drugs, and my little brother came over, and my aunt, my great aunt, older great aunt, my aunt Joe, when he walked in, he was like, not when he walked in, but in the midst of the conversation, he was like, when was the last time you got high? And my mother was trying to avoid answering the question, but my great aunt was like, 3 days ago, snitching on her, and he would start going off, like threatening to not let her see the kids, the grandkids, and you're not gonna be around my kids and be a dope fiend, and blah 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 blah. And he kind of really just got in her ass in regards to her relapsing. Da 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 da. Like, ain't you gonna get tired of this? And everything he said, I can tell you that I felt in my 20s. But when my mother called me, she was crying and she was like, he went off on me because I got high and da 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 da. I was like, Mama, look. And I had never verbalized this. I had thought about it, but I had never verbalized it to her. But I said, Mama, I actually do you got food in the house? You got food in the house? Are you paying your bills? Are you sleeping outside? I remember a time when you were sleeping outside under a bridge. People were telling me. What are you doing? Are you going to work every day and you paying your bills and buying your food? She was like, yeah, I got, and everybody is telling me that she is doing this. She's paying her bills on time. She has food in the house. The house is clean. It's just a place to stay. I said, for me, honestly, if you taking care of yourself, I really don't give a care about you getting high. If you using your extra money to blow off and get high, I don't really care. Not anymore. I used to want you to be clean. But at this point, because I'm an adult and I take care of myself and whatever you do won't affect me at all. If you're my mother, I want you to have a place to stay. I want you to have a place I want you to be eating well. I want you to be, secure. So if you're doing that stuff, I don't really care. He may still care. My little brother may still care, but I don't. I want you to, if that makes you happy, go for it. As long as you're taking care of yourself and I ain't got to come up and find you under bridges and I ain't got to come up and take up the slack and bring you down here. Look, take care of yourself. That's just like me going out and buying more clothes that I don't need. I'm paying my bills, but I'm taking my extra money and buying some bullshit that I don't need. Buying some video games, buying some clothes, buying some shoes that I don't really need, but it's my fucking money, so I'm spending it on whatever the fuck I want. But I'm taking care of my bills. I'm taking care of my needs first. And so if you're doing that, I'm out. I'm cool. Do your thing. And I guess once I told her that, it kind of lifted a weight off her. So, yeah. Sometimes you just have to let people be and accept that they will not change unless they want to. It's important to acknowledge the small steps and accept what cannot be changed. Honey, that's the serenity prayer. If you're in any kind of Alcoholic Anonymous or you recite the serenity prayer like it's the back of your hand. So yeah, and that's true. Some things if it's out of your control. Like if I can control it, then yes. But you're a whole grown ass human being. I'm not gonna be invested in your sobriety anymore. I'm not gonna be emotionally invested in it. You're not gonna call me and drag me down to memory lane of when I was younger and I was emotionally invested to it. I'm too old for that. I'll be 40 next year. No, I'm sorry, baby. I'm not. I'm trying to be happy, and I'm not fucking with you. I'm not fucking with you or no. You stressing me out about your damn drugs. No, I just had to forgive her because in my 20s, I used to wake up mad and angry. Then I thought about how she was happy living her life, doing what she wanted to do, and here I was miserable. That is it, baby. That's really what it is. You not about to stress me out. My life good over here. I'm down here in Texas having fun, secure. Nobody is. You not spending my money on no drugs. I remember a time when you was stealing out of my purse. I remember a time when I was in Mississippi and I was paying all the bills while you was smoking up money that I'd have went and prostituted for. So, you know, we're no longer in that situation. So who cares? I don't care. You're not using me. You're not affecting me. So no, we're not about to do it. I'm gonna put this alarm off. Yes. So you're not affecting me. You're not affecting my life. So do you. I was trying to think of how to word it. I think you said it perfectly. You will make yourself sick trying to fix people and hope they change. Absolutely. And so I was not invested in that anymore. My middle brother has not got to that point. He's in his he was born in 86. What did that make him? 34? Make him 34? Something 34, I think, right? So yes, it makes he's in his early 30s and he's just now being able to have these kind of conversations with her. Um so, you know, I don't have time to deal with it. I just don't. I'm choosing to not be emotionally invested in that. And like I said, I worry now if you're not doing your thing, if you're not doing your like I don't. It was a point when she was doing bad and she was living in a tent under a fucking bridge, homeless. And so when when I would hear that, I would get frustrated because I have a place that my mother can stay at. So you making me look like I'm an not necessarily making me look like that. It wasn't a pride thing like that, but it was a little bit it was because what the fuck it looked like you got kids and you living homeless. You got stable kids. And so it used to piss me up. It used to piss me off that that she would that you're living homeless, like living a homeless life, and you don't have to be. Like at the time, my mother, even now, my mother could stay with me, and I wouldn't feel like it would not be a burden. Like I make enough money to take care of everything, so she doesn't have to pay anything. And so it's like I and we tried that, but she just wasn't ready to not to get off drugs. She came down here and stayed with me for about 6 months, about 4 months, and we were trying to get her clean, but and in my house you can't be doing no drugs in my house. So she went back home, and so but she got on her feet and she got a job and she started doing her thing. So it's like I can't ask for nothing more. Do your thing. Did you talk about the video with the cisgender girl pretending to be trans? If not, what are your thoughts? Um, I haven't heard of that. I haven't heard of if is this a new thing? Like is this something new or is it I haven't really heard about That I heard about somebody doing it like about a year ago, like a model pretending to be trans, I think. But I haven't heard any recent thing. I've heard about it happening in the past. Somebody just trying to get in the door, which is kind of weird. Um, oh, but you're talking about in the car with the black guy, the black girl and the black guy in the car, and she pulled out the fake dick. I think you're talking about that. Um, um, my thoughts. My initial thoughts is two things can happen, girl. That could get you killed. Um, that could get you killed, girl. Like you playing those games, pretending to be trans, bitch, you'll get the brunt of the trans shit, and that can be death or violence. That's one. Or you will get popped, and because think that could lead into two things. So the first thing is he could be a violent person, and the response could be that. That's one thing. But you make this video, and if he thinks you're trans, and he says, "Oh shit, well I'm down with that too," but he's down low, and then you post a video about it because he gave you a real response, and he responded like, "I'm down with the trans shit," and you didn't know he was down with the trans shit, and you a cis girl, and then you post a video. We just saw the girl get killed in Indianapolis about exposing a guy she knew and his gay relationship. Like niggas ain't playing with y'all hoes out here. They ain't playing with you, and they will have you dead. Like this ain't a game, and I'm not saying that that's okay, but when you get to playing those type of pranks where you're pretending to be trans, that can lead to some shit, baby. That can lead to some stuff. So good luck with that. This feels weird. But even the trans girl who was in what country was she in? She was in some other Middle Eastern. Is it Middle Eastern country? One of those countries over there. And she was showing cisgender women how to go on the grinder and see if the guys that they're dealing with are gay. And I even think that that's kind of weird. I've seen people doing that, but that kind of went viral. And I just think it's kind of weird. It's like you open up the door, especially in countries where it can be punishable and it can really affect somebody's life. You open up the door to motherfuckers trying to get you, and we already a target. Ooh, I don't know. That's not a game I want to play. Sometimes I think it's hard for people to separate their expectations of another person versus the reality of that person. Absolutely. I hope that makes sense. Yes, it does. Um, I think for me, I don't, and it kind of, for it wasn't her husband. The woman in Indianapolis, it wasn't her husband. It was just a dude she knew in the hood. Um, for me, the challenge for me now as a single trans woman, I think one of the reasons why I'm single is because I don't have the patience and I don't set no expectations for men. Like the bar is low. Like I'm to the point where I feel like niggas ain't shit. It's just, you know. And so they're never gonna meet the expectations that I have. And because I'm trans, they're never gonna try to. Like, you know how my bar is high. Like what I expect from men is high. And it's kind of patriarchal as hell too. So I live within the binary. There's some things that I expect that are in the binary. There's some things that I expect that don't. That's just how it is, and I expect some things. And the bar, I think, to regular ass dudes is high, and I'm not willing to drop it. I expect you to contribute. I don't expect you to provide. I'm not. I don't want to be some stay at home person, but I expect you to work and contribute to the household majority. So I expect that. I expect. I'm not into non-monogamous relationship. Um, I'm not into that kind of stuff. So I have such a high bar. It's other shit that I need too. I have such a high bar of what I want, and I think that is basic shit. But niggas nowadays ain't stepping up to be more than basic. So I have opted to be out. Like I don't even try. Like like at this point for the past like 5 years, I have not been dating men. Like we'll go out, but dating men to go further and really figure out if we can be together. And I don't do that shit. I ain't did that in a long time. I'm not with it. Like I'm like, I use men for their penises and send them home. And I get my whatever intimacy like from people, like people that I love, and it's just not in a romantic way. So I just don't have time to figure out if motherfuckers is legit. I don't have time to figure out if they are yeah, I just don't fuck with it. So I don't give them expectations. I don't I just don't. And so the first step to disappointment is expectation. So if I don't give you any expectation, I will never be disappointed. And for some reason that has worked out to where, you know, I don't get close to men. I have a handful of dudes that I hook up with on a sexual basis just so I can get the physical touch and get off. But my intimacy comes from my friends. It's just platonic. It's not sexual. And so I've invested in the other relationships. When I was younger, I used to invest in men and I need a man and I need them and I need to cuddle with a man and I need to have them around, and I don't need that shit no more. I don't I don't fuck with it like that. I just don't um yeah, it used to be that was the defining factor. I needed to have a man. Now, child, boom. Come in here, let's get this nut off, get the fuck out. And hey, now let me go back to doing my activist shit. Let me go back to doing my podcast. Let me go back to doing my work that I need to do. Let me go back to hanging out and being a support system for my friends and then being a support system for me. Those relationships are more important to me now. Being a good friend, being a good sister, being a good community member with my community. When I'm fulfilled in those areas and I have my fun with the trade that I fuck with, what else do I need? I don't it and it's getting to that point where, I'm turning into a cat lady without the cats. But without loneliness. Because I don't feel alone. I don't feel lonely. I'm actually kind of happy. Because I'm not dealing with the relationship shit. It feels weird. Why do you think it's easier for trans women or more accepting? Wait, hold on. Why do you think it's easier for trans women are more accepting of bisexual men versus cis women? Your thoughts. What do you mean by more accepting? Willing to deal with bisexual men more than cis women? Explain that a little bit. Because I think I'm one of those trans women that, yeah, I'm not, I don't, I'm one of them trans women. I think like Yui always talks about this. Yui She likes bi men. Well, I don't know if that's just what she likes, but I know she's willing. I'm not necessarily willing. I have a weird thing about that, and it's ignorant, and I'm working through it. But um, um, I don't know. It's kind of triggering to me. It's kind of triggering. It's kind of yeah. I can't. It's not for me. Part of it can be rooted in insecurity, but part of it is I don't know. I don't trust it. I just feel like it's hard for me to believe that if you are into, excuse me, I just feel like, yeah, it's hard for me to work around that. That may be some dysphoria for me, but I just feel like, yo, I want you to be into women. But I think as far as cis women, shoot, I'm sneezing. Um, as far as cis women, I think there's some stigma that makes them uncomfortable with being with bisexual cis men. They are. There's some a disease stigma that's rooted in our culture in regards to bisexual men. There is some propaganda around them spreading disease, so that can be a deterrent for cis women um, who are uneducated about that stuff. Um, there is a insecurity that could be around, like it's different when it's a woman. I can compete with a woman, but if how am I competing with a man if you know I can't compete with a man because I'm not a man, and so and then there's a thing of not understanding how bisexuality works, um, and believing when they say something like, it's usually if a guy says he's bisexual, you really just like men, but you just want to say you bisexual because you ain't really ready to be just gay. Like this is how they think. Like you is um or they equate bisexuality with not having the ability to be faithful. Because a bisexual person could say, just because I like men doesn't mean that I want to have sex with men outside of our relationship. That just means that they're an option when I'm dating. But if I'm in a relationship with you, I'm in a relationship with you and I can be faithful to you. That doesn't mean I'm going to be sneaking and having sex with men behind your back. And some cis women don't understand that in regards to bisexuality. From basically what I hear that bisexual men say. Um, yeah, I think it's a lot of things that plays into the insecurities of being with, and part of that is in me. Um, it's based on butch like how butch queens act, how the butch queens I know act. They don't be faithful. They don't be. Is it they? Mm-mm. I couldn't. No, I couldn't do it. It's just not in my spirit. What is your understanding of pansexuality? Can you give me a clarity on how different it is from bisexuality? So, in how I think about that, bisexuality is rooted in the binary. It's rooted in men and women. I'm attracted to men and women. Pansexuality is acknowledging the variety of people that are not in the binary. So pansexuality, I feel like they can be attracted to men, women, trans people, non-binary people, all the spectrum that doesn't fall within just within the binary. I think the term bisexuality, because it's bi, is rooted in the binary of men and women. And pansexual encompasses everybody wherever they fall in or out the binary. So that's how I think about those terms. Hey, Plants over pain. How are you? I'm glad you're in a good place with it. I personally find being single a drag, but being in a relationship is also stressful. Glad you're in a good place. Yeah, I don't find being single. Um, yeah, I don't find being single a drag at all. I don't know. It just doesn't feel. I don't feel lonely because when I want to hook up, I have how I hook up with dudes is very. I don't know. Like it's like I the dudes that I hook up with, I enjoy being around them. I enjoy um for the time being. Like it ain't some of them is wham bam thank you ma'am, but some of them are really smart and really affectionate and really what I need. And so um if I feel like I need to have those cuddle moments, lay up, spend the night, talk, and da 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 da, there's a there's a specific guy that I know that's gonna give me that feeling. If I just want the dick, there's a specific guy that I know is gonna give me the dick like I want to get it. It's and so I don't. Uh, I'm just focusing on other things. It's just not. Yeah, I don't be feeling lonely at all. Which is strange. You know, I just get what I need. Um, Generally speaking, do you think society will ever accept relationships between trans women and cis men? I think over time it's just going to become commonplace. I think, I think, I think when you think of in terms of societal and cultural changes, it takes a long time because people don't want to change. When we think about how interracial relationships were looked at in the 60s compared to how they were looked at in the 80s, compared to how they were looked at in the 2000s, compared to how they looked at now. Think about the gradual acceptance of interracial relationships culturally. It's just gradual. And then now, as far as transness, and think about gayness. Think about it in the 60s, motherfuckers was still closeted and going to work and pretending to be straight and majority. Now they're open, there's prides, we've had Will and Grace on TV, we've had gay people on TV, we had gay mayors and gay we just had a gay, not that he was about shit, but we just had a gay presidential um front runner in the Democratic Party. Not front runner, but you know what I mean. We had somebody that it was even plausible to think that he could even win. So I think over time things change. I think for trans folks, eventually it's going to get to the point where this is no big deal. This is that's these cultural moments, like when we talk about Laverne being on the Times and talking about the turning point or the tipping point or whatever it was called. Like there is a tipping point that's happening where we're being seen on TV, we're being seen doing normal things, and you feel what I'm saying? It's just something that is becoming a part of the norm. Like even me, like when just my in my lifetime, there was a time when me telling a piece of trade that I was trans, sometimes they would be like, "What's that?" Now you tell a dude you trans, they automatically know. Oh, either I'm not down with it or I'm for it. I used to have to explain it. In the 90s, baby, you tell a boy you trans, they like, "What's that?" It was a different time. And now you ain't gotta explain nothing. They know what's up. They know what's up. They know they've met somebody. It used to be where people didn't know trans people. Now everybody know at least one trans person. It's just a different time. It's just a very different time in regards to how we, um, it's just a very different time. Um, how did you get to that? Every guy I find can't give me what I want as far as intimacy. I don't know exactly what you want. What is it that you want that is um that's what is it that you want that's hard to find in regards to intimacy? Um if you knew everything you knew about living in your truth, about being true, would you still transition? Absolutely. My transition was a I just could there was nothing else I could have did. Like it was, yeah, it just it my even through all the shit that I've been through, the most positive decision, positively affecting me decision that I've made in my life was to transition. Even though it came with all the negative, with the stigma and motherfuckers trying to throw boiling hot water on me in college and all the negative, all that bullshit. I still wouldn't change me transitioning. I just wouldn't. It's just I couldn't do anything else. This was who I was. And it wasn't a game. And so, and there's no turmoil in me. Like within my mind, within how I present to the world, there's no. I am secure in who I am. I don't give a fuck what's happening on the outside world. I don't care. You could be negative to trans people all you want. My internal compass is settled. I am comfortable in who I am. How I navigate the world makes I feel great. So that comfort, that alignment is more positive. It outweighs any of the negative for me. I don't know anybody else transition, but I definitely would still transition despite everything. Um, Me either. I love being single. I haven't hooked up with a dude in a long time. My self care is sex, so I can't not hook up. My self care is sex. I like physical touch. Isn't my love language. It's more of active service. But I need to physically touch people. That's a part of my self care. I'm giving up on relationship that hasn't anything to do with being trans. You're just giving up on it. I don't think I have given up, but I've given up the attempt. I'm not going after dudes. If a dude wants to be in a relationship with me, he really has to uh, really approach it and really go after me. He has to come into my life and not change it like, oh my God, I'm changing her life. But he has to make my life better in some kind of way to where I want him to be in it. Just saying, oh, I want to get to know you. No, okay. I hear that all the time. But you got to really step up and do something to make your presence in my life meaningful. Make me feel like giving up being single is worth it. Um, and as a trans woman, I'm in a special circumstance and I don't feel like I owe you the effort. And that might be a problem, but because of the negativity and the muck and mire of the dating world of a trans woman, a dude who wants to be with a trans woman is thoughtful enough to understand what we go through in the dating world. So he has to step up extra more in extra ways to show me that he's about that life. And if he doesn't and he's not willing to, I'm not the one for him. Because a thoughtful, trans attracted man will understand why I don't trust niggas. You feel what I'm saying? Because he would have done the work to figure out what has been happening in our lives as a trans woman. And if he hasn't done that work, he ain't the one for me. So I don't want to be with somebody who is like, oh, you got to show me that you into me too. I'm going to show you that I'm into you. But you have to make the first moves. You have to really show up and show out. It's not going to be 50-50. It's just not. And I'm willing to be alone for the rest of my life, despite lowering that bar just to have a man. No, fuck that. One of the things is we have to stop having people capitalize off us and then purport to be down with the cause. Sorry, but T.S. Madison. Explain that a little bit more. Go in depth in that so I can understand what you mean. Thank you for the donation. Thank you so much. I agree. People's minds are changing. Times are changing. Yes, I think that it takes time. The work that we all are doing, even a T.S. Madison. I don't think people like her. There's some level of certain ways I don't agree with, or certain mindset I don't agree with. But people like her, I think, push the envelope. I think we all are portioned. We got the Janet Mox, the T.S. Madison, the Diamond Styles, the Blair Whites, even though I don't like her at all. The Cat Blacks. When we talk about the Lavernes, the Miss Majors, the Lewis Mitchells, the Chaz Bonos, the trans men that's doing work too. We all are doing something. We're just this big push in the culture going forward. We can't control how far it goes. We don't know, we don't know, but we're just doing what we can to push the culture forward. We're writing books, we're doing blogs, we're being on TV, creating movies, creating shows, creating series. We're really doing our best to try to push the culture forward. And we all have a voice that's different, and it's not going to be the same. We're not going to agree on every single thing. But the main thing that we agree on is that we are all human. The main thing that we agree on is that we all deserve to be happy and live in our truth. We agree in that. Absolutely. It may be some nuances in what we don't agree with, but that portion of it, we all agree with. And how we get there may be a little bit different. Who is your dream guest on the podcast, Diamond? Dead or alive? Do you think your transness color? Do you think your transness colors the way you interview? Yes, it does. Oh, my dream people to interview. I really want. God, there's a lot of people who has been on the podcast. I've had Tracy on my YouTube channel. I haven't had her on my podcast. Tracy Jada O'Brien. I really like her. She's an elder that I really love. Mariah Moore, Aria Saeed, Tony Michelle. They're going to be on the show. Because of this COVID, we were supposed to be traveling together, and it kind of canceled our plans. So they were going to be Lasiah Wade, maybe Chris, Mr. Chris. I've had Sasha on the podcast. I had Brianna, excuse me. Dream. Some UK girls. I really would love some UK girls, but I like to record in person. So once I travel to the UK, I want to make that happen. I hate COVID had this. Um, it's kind of strange. Um, it's just kind of strange. It's weird. Um, I think my transness gives me a level of intimacy with gender that other people don't. Don, how do you feel about the black guy saying he is a prize for black women for not being gay? I feel and I haven't agreed. The bar is fucking low, and these niggas think that somehow being a good person makes them special or unique. That's how low the fucking bar is. And he's trash. And that guy, he didn't pass the bar in regard to the lawyer. He said he was about to be a lawyer, but he didn't pass the bar. So go sit his ass down. I think he's trash. Did you ever experience gender dysphoria? If so, what was your experience? Um, I don't think I experienced it to the extreme of some people, but I don't think that I didn't sit in that stage long enough for me to feel it to that extent. So once I figured out that it was possible, like I could get on hormones, I could get the surgeries that I need to present how I want to present, no longer did I feel I was tunnel vision onto what I wanted to be and what I wanted to look like. And I was into the research, I was into figuring out how can I get my body where I want it to be and present how I wanted to present. And so once that happened, once that door was open, once my mind clicked into okay, how do I do this? That is what it was about. So no longer did I feel um, it was now a goal. I didn't need to think about, oh, I, and that's how I am about problems. Like if there's a problem in my life, once I have a plan, I'm no longer stressing out about it. Like I can stress out about the plan not working out, but about the problem, I am not stressing out about the problem. I got to pay my rent on the first. How am I going to pay my rent? So now that's the problem. So I'm stressing. Oh my God, I ain't got money for my rent. Oh my God, how am I gonna pay rent? Da, 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 da. Once okay, how I'm gonna pay this rent? Okay, I'm gonna put an ad up. Oh, I'm gonna go to the host row. Oh, I'm gonna ask my sugar daddy. Oh, I'm gonna figure out the plan, the steps to get the money. So now I'm no longer stressing out about the problem. Now the stress comes with, is the plan working? This is how I deal with my problems in my mind. Is the plan working? I have a plan. So now, how can I get these 3 steps of my plan working to get this money for my rent? If the plan works, there's no stress. I put an ad up, I got my money for my rent. Boom, here you go. That problem solved, and I'm not stressed no more. The plan worked. And so in my mind, in my transition, it was the same thing. The problem was my body didn't match my mind. How can I get to the point where my body matches my mind? The plan was I need to get on hormones, I need to get implants, or get silicone at the time. I need to get pumped. It was all these things that were coming. And so once I see each time that I see my plan working, oh, I'm saving and I got enough, I got on my hormones, it was no longer a stress, and that dysphoria wasn't a burden anymore because I had a goal and I was constantly reaching these goals, and I got to the point where my body fit. I loved what I saw in the mirror, and boom, stop. Um, Boiling hot water. We need a story time for that one. Did I not talk about that? I think I talked about it on the podcast, not on the not on that, not on here. And how do you feel about trans women adopting the same mentality? There are so few of us statistically that some who reach certain points in life feel the same. I don't really understand the question. Adopting the same mentality. What mentality? Um, that's dirty of them to treat you like that in college. Thank you. I watched you for years now, so I know you don't take no crap. No, I don't. You timed out me. I don't think I timed out you. I think one of my moderators did because you were asking me, was I single? And I don't think that was relevant to the conversation. It's almost like you was trying to be freaky. And we have a lot of dudes coming in being extra, so they probably just jumped the gun. Sorry. Um, um, do you think dysphoria is in levels, our body parts? Because why do some girls desire to have SRS versus some who are comfortable? Yes, I think it varies. I think it varies from person to person. Once the rest of my body got to a feminized level, I got my breasts, I got my hips, and I got, my hormones. It softened me, and I look beautiful to myself. Having the other part stop being such an issue, and that may be particularly because I have a video called non-op, um, something about being non-op. I can't remember the exact title, but where I talk about it. Technology hasn't got to the place that I want it to be in regards to how the vaginoplasty works, in regards to its utility. It still can't have children. Um, it's getting better and better over time. But my girlfriends who have experienced it, um, it's hit or miss, basically, based on the girls I know. Sometimes the healing process can change some things. It can change their sex life. It can change their um, it's just different. And so I don't feel technology has gotten to the point for me to want it anymore. Um, so it's not for me, and I'm comfortable. I got to the point where I'm comfortable with myself. Like I'm comfortable with my body. I don't experience bouts of dysphoria anymore. I don't experience it at all, kind of. There's some things that trigger me, but it's little bitty. It's not even trigger is when it's an extreme thing. I can't even call it triggers anymore because it's not extreme enough to be a trigger in a psychological level. So yeah, it's not. I got comfortable, and I gotta attribute that to clients. No shade. Clients made me comfortable with how my body is. They made me not feel ashamed of it, as I was prior to being an escort. Um, adopting the mentality of a guy who said he was a prize. So let me go back and with that context, let me read it again. How do you feel about trans women adopting the same mentality? There are so few of us statistically that some who reach certain points feel the same. Oh, okay. Thank you. That gives a little bit more context. Um, I don't have a problem with people who value themselves. I don't have a problem with anybody feeling like I'm a prize. I'm worth having. I'm worth being loved. I bring a lot to the table and I'm proud of it. I don't have a problem with a person thinking like that. that guy's context was off. Like there's a lot of things that he said just wasn't rooted in truth. It was rooted in anti-blackness, and actually, it downed a lot of men. Um, and it made a lot of assumptions about what women want, and there's no nuances in that. Um, like for me, I'm not a person who needs to be rich. I like being comfortable. I live well under my means. So I just like being comfortable. I like having a roof over my head and being comfortable. I don't need to be in the fanciest neighborhood, the fanciest condos. So a dude thinking that all of us want somebody who in this upper echelon type of thing, I judge men by how they treat me, the attention that they give me, being contributors. I don't need you to be rich. I just need you to contribute to our stability. And so I think it's different um, in what he was doing. If you some trans girl who whatever you think you got going on, I think it's okay for you to be proud um, that you're successful, that you are emotionally stable, that you are financially stable, that you I think it's okay to be proud to be that. But if you think that somebody should be kissing your ass, um, outside of somebody trying to court you, then I think you're weird. Like, yes, the dude who's trying to woo you, the dude who's trying to convince you that he's the one, he should be kissing your ass. He should be the one that's like, oh my God, you got it going on. So I'm gonna try to step up to have it going on with you. Or if he already got it going on, let's bring our shit together. I'm trying to make it work with you, baby. Yes, but the way he was putting it out there is like every woman should be kissing his ass because he's some unicorn exception of a man. Fuck out of here. No, the person who wants you should be kissing your ass. What do you think about popcorn trans? I think the term popcorn trans is jealous old trans women, or maybe not old, or jealous trans women whose transition didn't go as fast as they wanted to go. I think popcorn trans is a negative term to demonize young girls who transition fast, who get their titties fast, who get their bodies fast, who do that. Um, I don't use that term. There is some instances where I think a girl um, has some growing up to do. It's just like a developing cis woman, like a cis girl who's teenager who has this woman body who developed really fast. She could still be a little girl in her mind, but I'm not hating on her. She got a badass body, bam. But she might need some maturing to do. But I think there's some trans girls like that who I don't call them popcorn trans. That feels weird. Feels like demeaning them for getting things quickly. And I think anytime somebody says that, it feels like they're just jealous that they got stuff quickly. But there are trans women who got stuff quickly, but they haven't mentally matured. They have to go through experiences, and they will mature, or they might not. It may take them a while. But usually, when I hear the term of popcorn trans, it's some girl who has a problem with a girl transitioning. Who has a problem with a girl who transitioned fast, or think that, oh, I paid my dues and these girls aren't paying these dues. They're just getting breasts and getting all this stuff so fast. And it makes them seem like old ladies being jealous. That reminds me of Electra and Pole for some reason. Maybe not to the extent of that guy, but as someone who thinks very highly of what they bring to the relationship, but they really don't. Yeah, I guess how she felt about her John that left her when she got a sex change. Yeah, and you don't because everybody values something different. Everybody values something totally different. I agree. It just reminds me of how. No, I don't find that offensive at all. Um, but I also don't find. I'm a context kind of girl. So somebody saying tranny in a context that's not meant to be offensive, I don't find it offensive. Like if you're saying it to be offensive, shit, you could call me. It's so many things that you could call me, the acceptable words that you could call me. Um, but if you say it in the wrong context, it could be offensive. But trans, I don't find trans to be offensive at all. It's a label that I accept. And I also understand why people are offended by the word, not trans. I don't understand why you're offended by that. Explain that a little bit. But like tranny, I understand that comes from a culture, a porn culture that objectifies us. So I can understand why people are offended by that. Absolutely. But I'm not offended. It doesn't offend me unless the context is meant to be offensive. It reminds me of how competitive Black trans culture can be and the rating system we sometimes have for ourselves. Yeah, like I said, I don't mind somebody feeling good about what they bring to the table. I don't mind it at all. Um, I'm not really competitive. Um, that's all. That's another thing that I don't deal with. If you tell me that you're trying to choose me and another person, I'm gonna tell you to choose the other person. I'm gonna make it easy for you. if you have to wonder, I don't want to fuck with you. Go deal with the other person, not me. Um, I'm not a I'm not a competitive person. I'm not about love, not about relationships. I'm not competing with nobody. You either want to fuck with me or you don't. You want to be in my life or you don't. It is what it is. We got about 8 minutes, 7 minutes. Make sure you thumbs it up if you're watching. Um, my podcast is up every Thursday. I'm just doing we got to talk about stuff. You can follow me on all platforms. Diamond Styles under Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. Podcast is Marsha's Plate. We put out an episode every Thursday. That kind of stuff. What else? Yes. We did do a Zoom recording for the podcast that I think I'm going to put out on the channel on Sunday. Were you always not competitive, or did you grow into that when it comes to love? I've never been competitive. I've always been a person who wanted other trans. I wanted to be around other trans girls. I wished in my younger years, my dream was for all the popular trans girls in our city, the girls that were out full time. I wanted us all to go to the same high school. We didn't. I went to Arlington. Strabella, Zori dropped out of school. Strabella went to Broad Ripple. We were all in different places. And so I didn't like that. I didn't want that. I want us all to be in the same school so we can all just be pumping through. I envisioned us being like The Craft. Y'all remember the movie The Craft? How they were like the weird witch girls. Nobody fucked with them, but they fuck with each other. and when they were flourishing in their before Nancy got all crazy, they were kind of flourishing. They was tipping through the school with their hair, and they was in their own little clique. I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be. I wanted everybody to look great. I wanted everybody to be fly. I wanted to be that clique of trans girls together. So I never wanted it to be. I never was thinking of it like I want to be the baddest trans bitch in the world. I want everybody to be their peak, because in my mind, my vision is if everybody is at their peak, everybody is undeniable. Like, you can't stop us from getting what we want. You can't stop. And I'm not just talking about beauty peak. I'm talking about peak in everything they do. If everybody is great at what they do, then the outside people is undeniable. So yeah, I'm not competing with nobody. I'm just not. And definitely in love. I feel like a guy's job, for me, I date men, and a guy's job, to me, this may not be for everybody else, but to me, his job is to woo me and be into me, and when he shows me he's into me, if I'm into him, I reciprocate and we build something together. I don't need. It's not a race. He's not a prize. I'm not a prize. We're just trying to build together. That's what we're trying to do. And so, yeah, I don't need to be competing with other girls. Do I know there's a level of competition? There's other options. Yes. No, there's a level of competition, but I'm not feeding into that. You either want to choose me or you don't. Make that decision and then come holler at me. When you got all these options, make the decision. And if it's me, come holler at me. That's how I think about it. I think because growing up, I heard people use it in a demeaning way. I don't want to say things I've heard. I grew up in the deep South. It, in the South, I moved to the South when I was 18. Um, um, I didn't hear people call us trans. They will call punks and faggots. Those words were more offensive than trans. I didn't hear people calling where I was from. I didn't hear people calling us trans. I heard them in the South. They were called punks, and in when I was up north, they were calling. They were just saying shit like shims and trannies and yeah, faggots and punks up there too. Not punks, more so. But yeah, there was words. The context was meant to be derogatory, and so when it's meant to be derogatory, then I can yeah, my boobies. When it's meant to be derogatory, then I can you know, I can be offended. But just trans, I'm not offended by trans. Are you still close to your friends you grew up with? Um, the girl on my channel that did used to do In Trans Heart with me, Ty, she comes in here a couple episodes. Um, she is still my friend. She actually, when I moved to Houston, she actually moved to Houston a year later. All my friends did. My gay mom moved to Houston. My other friend Vanessa moved to Houston. Yeah, so most of the people who I grew up with, I'm still friends with. Not necessarily close, but not enemies at all. But her, we're close. We're still close. She's my first trans girlfriend, and that's my sister. We're gonna be close for the rest of our lives. So yes, we're still friends. She lives actually maybe like 10 blocks away. What are your thoughts about the trans attracted guy you interviewed? I've heard bad things about him. Um, I assume you're talking about Troy. What have you heard? Are we talking about his relationship with Yaya? Yeah, that's his relationship with Yaya. Um, Based on, I don't know the truth in that situation. I don't know Yaya. I haven't talked to her about the situation. And Troy is my friend, um, not a close friend, but I don't know Yaya, and I haven't literally talked to her about it. So I don't know what the truth is in that situation. And based on what I see, I don't know. I can't tell you what happened. I can't tell you what happened in their situation. So, um, as I told him, if it's true, then they're holding you accountable. If it's not true, then you do what you need to do to prove that it's not true. And um, he presented police reports that prove that it wasn't true. Um, he presented copies of police reports. It's just all murky. And being a person who has been in relationship with niggas who were abusive, I'm never gonna say that she's lying. I'm telling you that I don't know. I don't know her. And so it would be quite weird to me that my friend who I do know, somebody that don't know, come and tells this story and I'm just gonna run with it. That ain't really I'm not gonna do that. What I've chose to do is not to get involved in it. That's until there's some concrete, things done. It's not my business. So I know other girls who date him who don't believe it just based on their engagement with them. But then I also, like I told them, like what he did with you may not be what he did with her. So she could be telling the truth. You never know. But if he's this great guy that loves trans women, why hasn't he found a girl? There's plenty of available girls. That's why I asked. I don't know either. I just asked. He actually was in a relationship for years. Prior to Yaya, he was in a relationship for like 13 years. But I don't know what's going on with his dating life now, but he did find a girl. He did find a relationship. So, and I don't think and then you could say that to any single person in regards to if he's this great guy, if like me, I'm single. If I'm this great trans woman, why am I single? Because there's it's complicated. Relationships are complicated. But I also was in a relationship for 5 years. So I don't know. I don't think him being single means that he's not a great guy. And I know people he's dating now. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in his love life. I don't really ask him about that. I don't really me and Troy knows each other in activism. Like in our attempt to push culture. We don't know each other. I don't ask Troy about his relationships. I'm not dating Troy. I wouldn't date Troy. Um, so I don't ask him about his relationships. When we engage with each other, it's on some activist shit. So, but what I've heard from other people that who have dated with him and engaged with him is that he's a good guy. The negative came from Yaya's story, and that could have been. It could be true. It could not be true. I don't know, but you know, I don't know. Like if you talk to her friends align with her, but they're her friends. I'm gonna align with my friends too. If my friends say a nigga ain't shit, I'm gonna be like he ain't shit. So I don't blame them either. I think that's just I don't know. I understand it is offensive if it's intended to be. Good point. Yeah. Yeah, if it's not intended to be offensive, then I'm not yeah, I'm not offended by it. I don't really there's some words like you can't like I don't like white people saying nigga because a white person saying nigga based on its history is disrespectful. Even if your intention is not to be disrespectful. It is disrespectful based on the history of the word. Don't use it. Um, but certain words don't have the same weight as nigga. Um, trans is not one of them. Tranny, I'm like, ooh, if you a non-trans person or a non-LGBT person, well, non-trans person, and you saying it, I'm on the side eye. You gonna be like, because people are offended by the word, so why are you using it? I'm gonna be like, why are you choosing to say this word? What's the context that you're using it in? If I can hear that it's not really meant to be offensive, then I'm not gonna be offended. But all right. I'm trying to think of what else I want to do. Who would y'all want me to interview? As a cis woman, I wouldn't say the T word even with permission. I think that's smart. I think that's good. I think that's and I know me as a trans person, I try not to use it as much. I think I've come to the point where I don't use it, but sometimes I might use it in when I'm talking about something in a cheeky way. Sometimes I'll use it. Um, but I think for a cis person, I think it's definitely safe to be like, nah, I don't fuck with that word. We don't need to. Yeah. But yes, um, I think we did a show about the word um, cat black. What about cat black? Yeah, honey, I don't feel comfortable with it either, just from how I've heard it used. Yeah, Would you interview her? Oh yeah, I would love to engage with Kat Black. I enjoy her content. One thing about Kat that I really love has been her come up in the YouTube game. I really love how she used to be all over the place. She used to be I remember her shaving her head, and like I remember the days back in the day where she was almost like a beautiful train wreck. It was almost like she was just going through so much in her life and she was letting us see it. It was like a beautiful train wreck. And then when she got with Beardy, it seemed like when she got with Beardy, she really focused on her brand. It really changed her in a way. Um, and she shifted and started focusing on her brand, using her art, using her skill and her talent, and really shifted her brand up. And I thought that was beautiful. I hope that it wasn't. I hope that the relationship was so well and balanced that it just made her a better person and matured her. And it took her out of the stress of dealing with her transition. That this is me just thinking it out, and I hope that it did that. I hope it wasn't just I'm trying to perform for this man, but that's what it seemed like. He was a good thing in her life, and it shifted her, and it shifted her in a good way, and I enjoy it. Hey, um, Love Me Right, Junior. And it shifted her in a good way. And I love that shift. She's so intelligent. She's so smart. And I don't remember feeling that way prior to that shift. You see what I'm saying? I didn't think she was dumb. That's not what I'm saying. But me listening to her, I previous to that shift, previous to Beardy, when I watched her, it was almost a sadness. It was like, God, she's really going through it. Like, God, I wish she was closer so I could be her friend, so we can, work through talk through some of the stuff. Um, it was more sad. It was more like, why are you putting this out here? Like, why are you being this vulnerable? Why are you putting the ugly parts where you shaving your head and getting on camera, getting naked and letting people trigger you to the point where you're almost embarrassing yourself? That's how it felt. It may be, and that may be projecting, but it felt like um, she just go like it felt like she just was mentally unstable, and it might have been her circumstances. But when she shifted and she was able to focus on her brand, she really, she just blossomed into an intelligent. It seemed intelligent um, trans woman that was thoughtful and smart, and I got into her brand shifted me into her brilliance basically, and so I enjoy her. I would love for her to come on the show, but because I do live interviews. I'm thinking about. It was always I wanted to bring when I go to LA, and so yeah. Completely off subject, but I need a really good meal idea for this weekend. I'm thinking of a casserole for Saturday and cabbage, cornbread, smoked turkey. Not sure what else. I'm thinking of a casserole for Saturday, cabbage, cornbread, smoked turkey. I mean, that's not enough. You got your veggies, you got your meat, your protein, you got your cornbread, you got a carb. What kind of casserole? Um, I don't know. That sounds like enough to me. But all right, I think I want Jahira. Her name is Jahira Missions on here. I want Jahira. I want to get definitely Cat Black. I would love to interview Cat Black. Um, really anybody. Some of the girls act funny. Some of the girls act funny, and the ones that are kind of celebrities, they act weird and like they're too good. But some of them don't. It just depends. Like, it just depends. So if you know somebody, hit them up and say, "Hey, why don't you come on March's Play?" Hit them up on Twitter, hit them up somewhere, and let them know, "Hey, you should go on the show." Um, the ones that seem down to earth are the ones that I usually talk to, and most of them, the one I like, have been on the show at some point, or I've been a part of their shows. Yeah, but like Cat Black is just one of the ones we haven't crossed paths, and you know, um, Angelica Ross. She's cool, so I'm gonna end up having her. I actually have an interview with Haley Sahar from Pose, the one that plays Lulu. I actually have her. I just haven't posted it yet. Um, yeah. Um, yes. Who else? Yeah, it's just about when I go to cities. When I go to certain cities, I hit up the girls or who are in that city. So you know, if they're available, I have them on. If they're not, I don't. Like Nyla Simone, she's a New York girl. I had her on. Um, Sasha Alexander, non-binary, transmasculine person, had them on. Yeah, if they're cool people, I'll get them in. It's just time, having time and figuring it out. Carter Brown. I'm probably gonna have Marissa Miller. This Corona stuff is really fucking shit up because I'm not traveling as much. Oh, y'all. Y'all remember? I don't know. Did I tell y'all this? I don't know. No, it hadn't happened. So I did a speaking gig at Stanford, and they actually posted the video, and I retweeted it on my Instagram. So if you want to see me speaking at Stanford, the Ivy League, go to my Twitter. I retweeted them posting about it. So it was a great conversation about decriminalizing sex work, and I love it. I'm probably going to post some of the clips on here too, but if you want to see the full video, it's on my Twitter. I retweeted them. So check that out. It was a great conversation. We loved it. We loved doing it. They treat you like a queen at Stanford. Oh God, they treat you like a queen. Love going to that school. The last school I spoke at before that, it was Syracuse University, and they treated me like a queen too. But Stanford was whoa, like oh y'all coin. It was beautiful. But okay, I think we talked long enough. Um, check it out on my Twitter. All my links are down in the bottom. You can check them out. Put out an episode of our podcast every Thursday. If you watch and you enjoy, thanks for being here this long with me. Thumbs up, share it once it hits the your timeline, and thank y'all. I think I'm gonna do a Star Wars binge on Disney Plus tonight. So that's what I'm about to do. Bye, y'all. Be good. And thank you for the donation. Um, plants over pain. Jersey Shore girl. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.